if you're a beef lover, you probably love ribeye steaks, right? They're so juicy, so delicious, so much beef flavor. Now, if you're buying a great steak, like, you know, you'd get at Lake Geneva Country Meats, fine Angus beef steaks, you could just put it on the grill, a little salt, pepper, it tastes great. Or take a little extra effort, a little extra time, and make the most phenomenal ribeye steak you'll ever have. If you want to do that, if that sounds good to you, follow this reverse seared, dry brined ribeye steak recipe. I'm gonna show you how. First thing you need for this recipe is ribeye steak. Seems self-explanatory, so let's open this up. Let me show you what you want to look for in a good ribeye. Nicely freezer paper wrapped twice at Lake Geneva Country Meats. So I had them cut this one a little thick. You can see this is 1.5 inches. For this recipe, a thick steak really helps. I like it. We're gonna cut it to serve it, so maybe we can serve 2 people. This is a pound steak. I have a big appetite, but that's a little too much even for me. So we have what's cut from the loin end. So you see we have a solid piece here, ribeye cap. There's a different end to the ribeye. It's called the chuck end. That has a couple more striations of fat in there, so you can order which side you want. But you wanna get a nice thick one, nice little fat cover, none of the hard fat, that's disgusting. So we're gonna start with this, and now it's time to dry brine it. Dry brining is an incredible technique that makes your meat more flavorful, more tender, and it's easy to do. It takes a little bit of time, but it's so easy. Basically, we're just gonna sprinkle salt on the top of the steak, let osmosis happen, draw water up, and it's gonna become a salt solution, go back down as it's sitting. We have a more tender, more flavorful steak. It's got to sit for a little bit. So step 1 is salt it. What type of salt should you use? Diamond Crystal Kosher Salt. You can use Morton as well, but you want to use kosher salt. I like Diamond Crystal. It's the least sodium-y, that is a thing, of the salts, and the crystal structure of it does really great for dry brining. So put your steak on a pan like this. We got a little roasting rack so it can get some air circulation. Get your salt bay it up. Now flip it. Okay, I know some people like exact measurements of how much salt you should use. You want to make sure it's covered. Don't go crazy. Have salt everywhere. Sprinkle from, 6 to 8 inches. Should be good to go. Make sure you get the top and bottom, especially on a thicker cut steak like this. That was a little too much there. Let's brush it off. And yes, I know I'm touching the salt with my dirty meat hands. Don't worry, I'm gonna throw it out. This is for show. All right, there we go. Steak is salted. Now, you need 30 minutes at a minimum to do this. If you're doing a 30-minute sit, let it sit at room temperature because we want it to come with temperature before we put it on the grill. If you're doing more, you can do 2 hours, you can do overnight, put it in the fridge, and that's why you want it on this pan, so you can get air circulation and nothing rots, everything gets together. I'm gonna show you, you can already see what's happening with this dry brine. Water's already starting to come to the surface of the meat, and it's just been on there for 30 seconds, a minute. That's what the salt does, especially the Diamond Crystal because of the structure. So all the moisture that's at the surface of the meat is coming up. It's gonna absorb the salt, go back down, and you'll get a delicious, delicious steak. I know you guys like listening to me talk, but probably not 30 minutes of banter as we're waiting for this to dry brine. So I thought ahead, and look at what we have. We have a 1-hour dry brine steak. It's been in the refrigerator, we took it out. You can see it's a little darker red color. Almost looks like tuna, like sushi tuna, because it's got that nice texture on the outside, a little bit of water on it, and that's exactly what we want. I'll show you the side-by-side. Color's a little different texture on the outside. This is gonna be great. We have the dry brine part of this covered. Now let's get the reverse sear part of this recipe covered, and that is how you set up your grill. This is so easy. You can do this on gas or charcoal. You can even do this inside with an oven and then a hot searing pan. We have a gas grill here, lovely Weber, and it's got 3 burners. So you wanna have 2 zones of cooking, an indirect heat zone, which means there's not heat right below it, it's just convection heat. And then you have one that has the burners right on, heat's coming directly up, radiating, searing it. We're gonna start over the indirect side, and that's gonna cook it through, especially with a thick steak. That's so important to make sure you get even cooking. But then we want that nice sear on the outside. So once it cooks through, move it over to hot side and sear that sucker out. So the setup is, one burner is completely off. This is where we'll cook indirect. One is very low, and that's gonna help us have a nice middle zone. And the last one we have on medium for a good sear. We're gonna bring it up to high when we move it over. The grill's at 425 degrees right now, which is where you wanna start. So while you're doing the indirect part, just have this to whatever it takes to get to 425 degrees. When we're gonna sear, we'll move it up to high. The dry brining got the salt in, helped make it more tender for the steak, but we still want a little bit more seasoning. This is my steak rub with no salt. It's just onion powder, garlic powder, black pepper, also a little bit of brown sugar that helps with caramelization and cut some of the salt. So I'm gonna have the recipe for this if you wanna do this, but you don't wanna put a rub on here again that has more salt. That'll be too much salt. But you probably do wanna add a little bit of black pepper at the least, so you can crack that over, or use a rub like this. So we're just gonna sprinkle, 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 flip, sprinkle, 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 sprinkle. Make sure we get the top, rub that in, ready to get on the grill. So we have the grill at 425 degrees. We'll put this on the indirect side, right over here. The grates are hot, which is great. And then we're gonna put a temperature probe in here, and this is gonna help us make sure we cook it to the right temperature. So this goes in middle of the steak. Convenient little thing here to run it out. Close the lid. We're at 53 degrees now. We wanna cook this until it's 125 degrees. We wanna hit medium rare. If you wanna do medium, you could do 132 degrees before we move it to the direct side. I swear if you cook beyond medium, please don't buy steaks for me. Just please don't. They're too good for that. Thank you. We're at 121 degrees, so we're gonna get ready to move it from the indirect side to the direct side. We wanna turn the direct heat side up to just ripping hot. Same on this middle one. We're ready to go. So we're gonna take this, pull out the temperature probe. I like to use plastic tongs so they don't cook the steak or cut the steak. Looks pretty much cooked, so all we need is a quick sear. Put that over, let it cook over that direct heat for 60 seconds aside. Let's close this up, let it cook. If you wanna do the hatch grill mark thing, you can do that. Just set it down, 30 seconds, turn it. I don't really do that. I don't like that, but you can do it if you want. The other thing you can do with this, if it's important to you, if you like it, you can put a cast iron skillet on the direct heat side of the grill, put some butter in there to melt and your herbs, put the steak in that cast iron skillet, baste, 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 baste. So that's a great way to do that too. I just like the grill flavor. I think it works great. Just about ready to pull it off, but before we do, we wanna make sure we get a nice sear on the fat cap. Hold it like that, you're gonna get some flames. This doesn't have to go too long, 10, 15 seconds. This will go fast. Get that side. It's a little bit of color. And boom. Look at this. Look at this. Beautiful reverse seared ribeye steak. I know you want to eat it right away. We're gonna let this rest, so I'm gonna sit it right there, and then we're gonna go ahead, cut it up, see what we think. Steak is rested, and it's time to slice it up for serving. So let's get down here, Colin. This beautiful steak, nice sear. Take some slices off. Oh, yeah, it's gonna be great. Let's get one more slice off, and that'll be for the chef. Let's give this a try. Damn, very good. Perfectly seasoned, great temperature, tender. You'll see it looks a little different than if you just put it on the grill. That's because of the dry brining, and it's cooked much more evenly. So that's how you do a dry brined, reverse seared ribeye steak. This also works with your strip steaks, your T-bone steaks, porterhouse steaks, bone-in rib steaks. Any good grilling steak, this is gonna work. Hope you enjoyed this recipe. Stop on by Lake Geneva Country Meats, pick up some of our fine steaks. Check out our other recipes. See you soon, happy grilling.